What's poppin'? What's poppin'? What's poppin'? Monday night football double header. If you ask me, that sounds epic. I love double headers. I actually liked that the other week when they overlap or didn't overlap. That two games, even though the one game ended so late. Why are we complaining about more football? I mean, listen, we know how it's already September. We're like, oh, it's week 4, it's long season, it's gonna be crazy. But like next thing we know, it's gonna be October, and we're gonna be like, yo, or I should say maybe like December, we'll be like, yo, like the NFL season is like almost over. Like, what are we gonna do without football? Like these playoff races are coming down to the wire. Some teams are already tanking, and we're gonna be missing these days where there's double football at the same time here. So welcome everybody for appreciate you guys all for hopping in. We're going to get started in a second here. You know how it goes. Quick promotion here. And we're going to be giving out best bets for tonight's game. I've already locked in a couple of things now, and we have a bunch of boosts. I'm looking at FanDuel now. I actually opted into the 230% boost over the 150%. I don't know if that's a math equation there that I'm missing out on, but I figured it'd be more fun to have two boosts to use there. And looking over at DK here, we have a profit boost on a SGP for the Monday Night Football games. So we'll absolutely be utilizing that. I think that's the only boost that we have there on DK. Using the amazing outlier, of course, for Mondays as always. We'll be back Wednesday doing a full slate of week 5 on Wednesday, like always with Jake. Hopefully he'll be there, but if not, I'll do it solo. No worries. The promo is out, and it's time to start looking through the board here. So I haven't spoken too much about these two games besides the best bet show on Wednesday. Haven't had any really changing opinions here. I think it's definitely a Miami spot for Miami versus the Jets. Let's take a look at some of the line movement quickly, and then we'll dive into some of the prop bets. I know the game starts soon. We'll bet some first touchdowns some anytime. We'll find exactly what we need. Have about an hour here. Then the second game goes on. So if I don't find everything for the second game, I'll stay on for a little bit here. So we have some time to get the best bets going for this one. Dolphins Jets. Let's take a look at some of the market movement to make sure we're seeing. I haven't seen a ton, right? So obviously this opener, that's a August there. That is a full look ahead. But looking at sorry about that, boys. Looking at the entire market here, let's only look at some books. We'll keep just a penny right now and just track their line history. Opened up at 130 back on 9/28. This was yesterday, so we're not seeing all the way dated back on this interface, but we're seeing some of the recent market movements. A little bit, looks like a little bit of clicks on the Jets, and then a little bit of clicks on Miami. Not a ton of movement on this one for a money line, especially at penny. And looking at the spread here, it also has not really moved a ton either. This look ahead's irrelevant, but it was got 3. We did see a 3 pop back up, but then going back to 2.5. So that's telling us that there is big time market resistance at 3. 3 being, of course, a key number. So the sharps are, keeping it at 2.5. They don't see the second a 3 pops up. They're getting that and betting that right away. So essentially, they have to make you or lead you to believe that this market is as fair as possible, which in NFL game lines, it's always going to be, relatively efficient or very, very efficient, I should say. But this market, particularly on the standalone Monday, we're seeing 3s get gobbled right away. 2.5s are not getting gobbled. So that makes me believe that this price is as fair as it possibly could be. Of course, variance happens. Anything could happen there. At current market, I do lean Miami. Have not bet it. Will not bet the money line here. We'll look for some props or the spread, I should say. But let's look at the total here, 43.5. That's under the key number of 44 as we see some dips here from the outliers real-time odds. At 532, we saw a 43.5. We saw a drop as well on some pricing here. But even today at 452, at 44.5, where the market was for a good amount, it's getting bet back down to 43.5. And 44 is a very key number in the National Football League. And the fact that it's staying under that key number, again, it does look like some of the value has been sucked out, and it's kind of just this is what the market thinks is fair under 2 key numbers of 3 and 44 and 44 for the total. So that's a good overview of the game from a market perspective. Can never ignore that. Let's take a look at some injuries here. Jarvis Brownlee out. Jermaine Johnson will not be playing tonight. We know that Justin Fields is back. Injury for over here. AVT, of course, is out. On the flip side here, let's look at some Miami injury reports. Liam Eichenberg not playing. I saw also Storm Duck is out as well, backup cornerback who needs to play a lot, actually. James Daniels on the IR, we know that. Big time lineman there. Artie Burns on the injury report. So, what we know from Miami, terrible defense, but they do have the mini bye. They played at Buffalo last week in a game where they actually really could have, won that one. They certainly covered there in Buffalo. And Tua does what Tua does, throws a back-breaking pick, and that was kind of the end of that one there in Buffalo. So the Jets on the other side, they took Tampa Bay down to the wire, but Baker Mayfield went and killed them. And that was a game where Tampa Bay was missing a lot of key pieces. They had a lot of injuries. The Jets also lost Jermaine Johnson there. So not a real easy one to, read the tea leaves from or anything I feel too strongly for this Jets-Dolphins game. But if you, maybe take a pick, I like the Dolphins and I like the over. But let's try to find some more actionable stuff that we can actually bet here. So let's and we'll go game by game because we'll focus on this one first. You can definitely build a parlay for the second game that includes, legs from both games. We could do a little bit of mix and match here. And I do want to mention we're coming off a banger yesterday. We hit a 14-1 parlay. Props, I think, went 2-2, which wasn't great, but game lines went 4-1, hit a beautiful prop bet. So another very profitable Sunday. So let's cap off the week big time here. So I bet this early. Breece Hall over rushing yards. And at this point, the market's it's gone. I got in at a really great price. I got in at 47.5, minus 110 at MGM. They had an awful opener and fortunately got in there. But the market is stabilizing a bit at 56.5 for the over. No big minus 101 odds. As you can see, we got up to 59.5 and then bet back down. So some love on the some love to fading Breece Hall, it looks like, in the market at this number. Of course, 47.5 being a much different number than 57.5. So I'm probably not going to middle or do anything crazy like that. But let's look at some of the numbers here because I actually do think it is still a very good bet. Last week against Tampa, only 21 rushing yards. We know that there was a Tyrod Taylor game, and of course, Tampa Bay's run defense has been, good for years now. Buffalo as well. That was a game that got completely blown out of proportion early in the game. Jets abandoned the run; they couldn't do anything, and the Bills, steamrolled them here. But against Pittsburgh to kick off the season, it was the Breece Hall show as he was just absolutely tanking and running the ball big time. From a rush attempt perspective, only 9 against Tampa, 10 against the Jets. Against the Bills. 19 against the Pittsburgh Steelers in that game that was high scoring, and the Jets only running the ball. 6 fewer plays so far this season for the run compared to the pass. And then this is where things get interesting. So yes, Fields is back. Could probably take away some of the rushing, but I actually think that this creates an environment for Breece to have success because now the zone reads become a lot more scary when you have Justin Fields' capabilities of running the football. I know he's back from a concussion, so maybe they're going to baby him like a little bit. Make sure he doesn't take any massive hits. Of course, they want to keep him healthy. He is their starting quarterback. He actually is starting running back. Breece RB1, Fields RB2. And looking at some numbers, Miami rushing against Miami, Ty Johnson went over. Backup running back hit that line. James Cook went to town, absolutely destroying this number here. Travion, not a ton of rushing attempts in that first game, had 10. Ramondre went well over. And in actually week 1, they held JT under his number, but that's because Daniel Jones was absolutely slicing and dicing. So I'm a big fan of Hall today. He hasn't had the most amazing season. Miami, 23rd in rushing yards allowed, allowing 23. But looking at the overall rush share, he is the running back. Braylon Allen gets a couple of rushes here. Justin Fields, of course, can steal some rushes. But like I mentioned, I think it's actually a better situation with Fields being able to, run that RPO and actually threaten with his legs. That's going to lead to defenses being playing a little bit more keen on the run game, but having to guard 2 guys instead of just one is actually going to get some opportunities for Breece Hall. So I don't care that he's gone under in 2 straight. I think this is a Breece Hall bounce back. I'm not just saying this because, like I said, I did get a really great number betting on early on MGM. I caught them sleeping, but even at market, 56.5 at Novig. And let's pull up the liquidity here at Novig. I think this is a very good bet to make. Even though I do think this is an over game, I just think it's a game where nobody can stop anybody. Like Mike McDaniel, obviously at this point is not a good coach in terms of people like, I guess in some cases like respecting him. Let's find the odds here. 283 at -101, -106. So if you are interested, you could take up some of this liquidity, if not all of it, there on the over. Um, Under has 709, $704 of liquidity at -109 here, but I'm definitely looking at the over for Brees Hall. But what I'm saying here is, um, from a game state perspective, I think it's supposed to be a close one, as we can tell. And I don't think the Jets abandoned the run whatsoever. I'm definitely in for a Brees game here. Let's look at some EV for anytime touchdown, plus 154 at Kalshi, 154 at Profit X, 152 at Novig. So that's best price in the market, 145 at FanDuel. So seeing some value, multiplicative method. There is a full Kelly. We'll get that to quarter Kelly. But some of the worst case methods not showing EV to Hall anytime. But we will continue to find some good bets here. I'm a big fan of Brees Hall. And actually, this is getting me intrigued because something I love to check is like what are WR1s or RB1s, the guys who really do dominate the target share or the passing share, and what they are to score first. Okay, this is beautiful right here. Brees Hall is plus 850. Let's pull that up. That's best price in market over at DK. What did I click wrong there? Beautiful. Let's pull this up here because I think this is already enough said, honestly. 850. What is it at FanDuel? Because we have the boost. So maybe I would even boost this. It's 750. Let's see. Let's look at the boost here. Let's look at some of the pricing. I opted for the 230% boost on FanDuel tonight. So don't have that 5%er, have them, a couple of them. But first touchdown score, Brees Hall 750, 980 with the 30% boost compared to 850 at market, which still has some EV there for first touchdown. I'm actually just going to bet the DK 850 and not boost. I'm going to save the boost there. But give me Brees Hall first touchdown score for my New York Jet first touchdown. You're getting a chalky type player at plus 850 odds. I know that they're underdogs, and I know that they're obviously not expected to win this game, though they're only 2.5-point dogs. So, like, not expected, take that with a grain of salt there. It's not like they're expected to get blown out or killed or anything like that. But this is definitely a Brees Hall spot for me. You're getting arguably the best athlete on the field, especially with both, with the Jets offense for sure, as well as the Miami Dolphins defense. I'm all in. Brees Hall first touchdown, book it. We're locked and loaded. And the pricing is still good. But let's look at some of the receivers now for Miami for a first touchdown. I'm interested by. Jets defense has been abysmal so far this year. One thing I will say about Mike McDaniel, now obviously, again, I was saying this before, he's really not a great head coach. I still think he could scheme up offense. And we have seen some, positive signs of this still against Buffalo, which is defense is not great. They still were in this football game for realistically the entire time. And now we're talking about a situation where they're playing on a short week against the Jets defense that really struggles, especially one with Aaron Glenn that is like a man-heavy defense. I'm going to pull up some auxiliary numbers here as well to make sure that we're checking some team data properly. Let's see here. Team offense. Actually, we'll switch to team defense for coverage here. We'll look at, let's see, MYJ we want to look at here. I can't type. I'll switch my screen in a second here. Looking at FTN for a second here. Coverage, the Jets here. We have a zone coverage rate of 54% against total dropbacks here. Man coverage of 45%. So they're a pretty healthy mix, but the Dolphins are a team that can kill you with man coverage, of course, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. HM being 525. That's just going to be a pass for me from a market perspective here. Let's see. I was very big on Malik Washington. He was very close to scoring a touchdown, the first touchdown in that Bills game. Though, of course, we know that what's his name there? Alec Gordon stole that one. Now he's 16-1. He was like 30-1, so almost double the odds last week, if not more. Josh Reynolds 28-1. Justin Fields here. This is gonna be a little bit like a force per se because we're talking about again betting a first touchdown on a prime time. And I want to just have both sides for, the sweat of it. But both of these teams are like funnels, right? It's really going to three players on the Jets: Brees, Garrett Wilson, or Fields. Then on the Dolphins, it's H.N., Hill, or Waddle. There's not a lot of like difference there. This Wilson 10-1 is also interesting. Like, Wilson is so damn good. I still don't think he gets enough flowers for how good he really is. But Waddle 1166, Hill at 750. I wish this was a little bit better. Let's see what it's at FanDuel, because maybe it is worth boosting one of them here. 7-1. Let's look at some of Hill's metrics so far. Anytime tutties 2025. Seeing some value at no vig to penny, just at the multiplicative. He did score last week against Buffalo. Let's see. Red zone targets here. Waddle is number 1 with 3. Hill has 2. Malik Washington has 1. Rush attempts, we have Washington with 6. Red zone, we have Ollie Gordon with 4. HN with 2. That's very interesting. But targets here, HN only 1 red zone target. I mean, not doing a great job getting to the red zone there. Receivers against the Jets. So Elijah Moore got in against his old team there in that blowout. Mike Evans got in. Calvin Austin not listed. He, of course, scored in that game there. Let's look at some tight ends here. Jonnu scored, but not a lot of tight end action allowed for the New York Jets. Quarterbacks here, Tua is not a threat to run the football. And running backs, James Cook turned up against them. Jalen Warren scored. So Jets doing a pretty good job of only allowing 1.3, 3 touchdowns a game. Guess that really isn't that great. All right, so we'll look at some props here, and then we'll finalize who that first touchdown is. We'll build out the rest of the boosts and parlays for tonight here. Let's stick to overs for now. We can always go to unders. Of course, we'll bet some unders, but we want to look at what we got. And we'll start here. We'll do actually both these two games. And we'll stick to some of the props that we know and love. We'll do passing TDs, passing yards. We can do completions as well as attempts. Receiving, not targets, receiving yards, receptions, rush attempts, rush plus receiving, of course, rushing yards, and touchdowns. So we'll focus on these markets now here. Waller expected to play. To me, that doesn't really make a difference whatsoever. Some Evan Ingram stuff for the second game, some Jamar Chase. I have Broncos money line to close out, like a very square parlay I took yesterday. I took Detroit money line, Philly money line, and Broncos money line at plus 120. So I'm rooting for a Broncos money line here. But let's build some beautiful slips now. So I was interested in Garrett Wilson a lot. He is just so good. 5.5 receptions. That seems high. He had 10 last week. 4 against Buffalo, 7 in that week 1 game. He is just dominating the target share. Now, a lot of situations like this, you never know if it's something that's going to be sticky and it's going to be happening frequently, or, you can expect some regression there. And ideally, or not ideally, depending on how you bet it, or if you expect things to, come back to earth a little bit. But let's look at Fields' attempts and what his line's at, because I'm curious what the books are expecting. It's a very terrible pass defense for Miami. Fields, of course, got hurt last game with a concussion. So let's have Kelly. So quarter Kelly. Seeing some EV on his rush attempts, actually. Interesting. Let's go to his pass attempts. If you guys want to try out Outlier, 7-day free trial, I'm going to tweet the link out actually right now. So you guys can click the link under the stream and give Outlier a try for 7 days. Justin Fields, 26.5 pass attempts. He had 11 against the game, got hurt. 22 against the Steelers in the game they blew out. As a Hall fan, I think the Jets are hard to, support 2 different running backs, or I should say 2 different skill players, which is like sad because, of course, there are teams that very well support multiple skill players, or take the opposite approach like Buffalo and even like Kansas City, where they have a bunch of guys who just get involved in the action there. But let's build out some slips here. I like Brees to score. Brees Hall plus 150. So let's go back here. Let's start at our roots. We have Brees first touchdown, so definitely like Brees anytime, because I'm betting him because of odds for first. Don't get me wrong, but also because I think it's a good bet. Plus 155 at DK. We'll take that out of there. We'll find our first touchdown for Miami, and we'll do a full breakdown, of course, of Denver and Cincy. Brees plus 150. And now let's see some of the other props. So I think Miami is going to have success in this one. Like I mentioned earlier, considering they are coming off their bye or mini bye, I should say, and they play Miami well. I think Mike McDaniel has shown he's still a good offensive coach, regardless of his antics and his leader of men abilities here. 5 receptions is only 164. Head to head curiosity here. Not that really matters. I like 5+ for Reek. Add that to the slip here. We have parlay boost, so of course we'll be looking at some of that. But Reek's baseline is 5.5, 122 on FanDuel. His alternate receptions on FanDuel, 5+ is 168, and what is it on DK? 164. I love that. I think Miami is going to make it absolutely going to make it an effort to give the ball to their number one target, especially considering everything that's been going, kind of wrong for them so far. So halfway there on this lay. We have again, what's this profit boost for SGPX for tonight? It's 32%, max bet of $5, obviously. Unfortunately here. So Tyreek receiving and Brees Hall rushing yards, Brees Hall touchdown are two of my favorite things for this first game here. But let's focus a little bit more on Denver and Cincy. So holistically about this game, I'll go to the game tab here. Holistically speaking for this game, we see 7.5. So of course the key number of 7. They're still giving the hook to the Cincinnati Bengals. Also, I saw from Prime Sports. So if you guys aren't familiar with Prime Sports, they're a sharp sports book operating in a couple of states, relatively new. Patrick Everson always tweets out like splits from them. And sharp play hitting more in tonight's 2 Monday Night Football games from Prime. We have Dolphins minus 2.5, Bengals plus 7.5, Jets Dolphins under, which actually definitely checks out considering what we've seen in the market for the under. But the fact that the Jets are getting bought at 3, because it's never going to 3, it goes to 3 for a second, then it goes back, is interesting. They need the Jets, and they have Sharp and Rex both taking the Dolphins. But I'd actually like this first comment here. Everybody needs money on the 85% of the money is on the Jets, yet they won't move to 3. To me, that is interesting. That's something that I think is worth thinking about here. And if we ever got a 44.5 or a 44, let's actually see, because I actually am going to buy the narrative that sharp money is on the under here. 44 minus 108, minus 111 at Profit X. Now, like, this is in some degree is a little too good to be true, it sounds. Let's see what the liquidity is, but this could be a good bet here. Only 359.11 in liquidity on this one, which, don't get me wrong, is decent if you want to take that, like just for like an everybody eating situation, which of course what we do on stream here, want everybody to eat. Those odds aren't widely available here. Minus 112, minus 113. So not a lot of liquidity at under 44.5. Makes sense. 44.5 being a key number. Then you drop to 44 at minus 108, and we're seeing 5K liquidity there, 10K at minus 107. So a bet just came in on the other side, which is absolutely worth thinking about there. Interesting. Do I want to get in? I kind of do. Under 44, minus 107. Let's go back and look at the rest of the market quickly just to get a gauge on where everybody else is standing right now. So we have 44.5, minus 117 at Kalshi, 118 at Novig, DraftKings 120. So of course, Profit X definitely the leader in the clubhouse currently with their liquidity here for this Jets Dolphins under. Not that I'm like dying to take a bet right now just to say I did. We of course have some good stuff in our slip. And speaking of in our slip, we just saw some odds move. They gave me better odds on the leg, but they didn't change any of the legs of the straights, which to me is like very odd. Let's look at some of my player prop EV filters here. Let's see what we can find from the market just to get going right now. Oh, it just went back down. Okay. DraftKings is tripping. Braylon Allen touchdown showing value. Let's the big books. We have Bookmaker, Circa, Pinnacle. See if we add Circa to this. No results. Interesting. Minimum weight, 1 book. Well, we'll make it 2 books actually here. Try to get as precise as possible. You never like, yeah, it's really great if you see like a massive edge here, but you have to, consider what that edge realistically should be, and not overbet your edge ever. That's definitely a situation for not making your bankroll maximized. Gasecki, some odds are dropping on that slip here. Receptions, Jamar Chase receptions over. Though it's looking like a very small EV, -132. Yeah, in this Denver game, it is very, very interesting one here. But maybe if we add to our SGP, so DraftKings baseline is 44.5, 120. Of course, at Profit X, there is more value there. I'm going back and forth between these two games, a little bit scatterbrained. My apologies, guys, but I'm just torn on the market being on under. I find it hard to believe. Don't get me wrong, I respect and am all for the market, but it is a little fascinating to me, realistically. Very nice, very nice. All right, let's talk about this game quickly. Jake Browning's obviously horrible, but how horrible is Bo Nix? Because the answer is he's absolutely terrible. And if Bo Nix was just as good as he was last year, which still even wasn't that good, they should have beat the Chargers by like a pretty big margin last week. Now he has the home field, which is going to be always helpful, especially in the with the altitude against a backup quarterback. They still have the coaching advantage, Denver, absolutely, with Sean Payton running point. Like, again, Bo Nix was just terrible. He would have been able to get them a lot more. He probably would have won that game with any other quarterback. But if Herbert was on the Broncos in that game, they would have won by like 50, or put ups like 50, I should say. Win by 50, obviously a little exaggeration there. So it's put up 50, but you guys know what I mean. I'm torn. When it comes to a spread, I haven't bet anything here, but from props perspective, this Broncos defense has not been nearly as good as we anticipate here. And I'm seeing the odds change of my parlays right now while I'm spewing here. So that's also annoying me because we want to lock these things in at best price. But we're seeing some movement now on Breece Hall went to 145 at DK, now 150 at draft at FanDuel. So flipping a little bit of the odds here. We have Hall over rushing yards for everybody who is hopping in now. And that's so far the best thing that we've bet. Hall just moved again. It's moving in the bet slip. But looking to build out our parlay boost for DraftKings and FanDuel. We also bet Breece Hall first touchdown. So we're big Breece Hall guys tonight. So Jamar Chase is very interesting, but T. Higgins is even more so because T. Higgins, the way that he plays, like he does have a good profile for the way Browning plays, as well as if you have Surtain, kind of locking up Jamar Chase here. I could see T. Higgins being the guy to be the beneficiary. 15.2% target share, which is kind of low for T. Fant is number 2. Let's look at how tight ends have done against Denver. Absolutely shut out from a TD department, though. You played the Titans, who stank. The Colts, who they did a good job shutting down Warren, but couldn't shut down anybody else. Receivers, Keenan scored, and that's all so far this year. So it's been the running backs getting to them. Jonathan Taylor scored one. Omar and Hampton scored one. DJ scored 2 in that game, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that was week 1. He scored 2. He scored 1 in that game for anytime TD. Defensive lineman showing odds. Not sure there's going to be so many points scored, but I do look to T here. If anyone's going to score, best price at Kalshi, but 275, 260 at FanDuel. I'm intrigued by T. Let's look at some more of his numbers. Receiving yards, shut down against that Minnesota game in that ugly, ugly game. Hit against Jacksonville, did not hit week 1 against Cleveland. And again, a very ugly game with Burrow, under center. Receptions here, 3.5. At this point, we're getting a discount. I know he's gone under in both those games. He's only getting 4.7 targets, only 1 target in that game. But that game, of course, got away so quickly from everybody there. So, overall target for 14%. We were looking at reception. So they were allowing QJ went over, Keenan flew over, Ladd was shut down there. Same thing. Some of these more slot type guys did do better, like Josh Downs with Surtain on Pittman, Pierce deep down the field, which supports T. I'm adding T receptions into this lay. So currently we have Reek 5+ receptions, Brees anytime. I'm also adding T Higgins receptions here. Let's check out the odds, and we'll build it both on FanDuel and DraftKings. Use a boost on both, and see what we get here. T Higgins 4+ is 171, but on FanDuel it's different price there. Let's look at different markets here. T Higgins 4+. Let's see it on FanDuel here. I'm expecting DraftKings to have better odds because FanDuel has been doing terrible pricing with a lot of their parlay odds this year. It's been really, especially non-correlated. Like, you're going to take an extra tax on correlation. Like, you don't want to get beat that way. Like, sure, I guess I get it. But on non-correlated plays, to me, it's a little bit crazy. 521 right now currently at both books. So they're actually same price on both of these, which is very surprising. I'm not going to lie. So there's 2 props right there. I mean, I'm already in on Hall for a good amount, so I don't want to add him for this parlay as well. But we got to think about how bad the Bengals defense is. And though Bo Nix has been horrible, we should be able to see some semblance of life from some of these receivers for Denver. Sutton, main guy, 21 targets. And Troy Franklin has been their second best overall weapon here with 19 total targets. Bringing it down to the red zone, Troy Franklin's been dominating that as well. Now let's look at how receivers have done. Jalen Naylor killed them. Jettas just went over. De'Ami Brown, wide receiver 2, went off. Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman with overs in that game. And let's look at running backs. Dylan Sampson getting dumped down to, and even ETN went over on this one here. Let's look at also, I'll pull up touchdowns just to see some, more red zone type of stuff here. Rush attempts, Dobbins is dominating. RJ Harvey doesn't do anything, and Tyler Batty doing a lot of pass blocking in the red zone. It's been Dobbins. So what are Dobbins' odds actually for some touchdown stuff? He's probably minus 125, 18 at Novig. So we're not getting a great price here, but we know that the Bengals are realistically just one of the worst defenses out there. Though we had Tootin scored ETN, so both backs beneficiaries of scoring there. And Jordan Mason in his bell cow debut absolutely torched them on the ground. Let's look at rush yards. I do have to feel somewhat like Peyton is definitely losing faith in Nix, and not in the sense where it's like he's probably primed to get benched tomorrow or anything like that. But I do think that if they can just establish the run and run and not have to worry about anything from the perspective of Nix making a mistake, they'll probably definitely want to lean into that. Best odds here for a rush yards at Profit X here. Kill that number against the Chargers, who we know clearly have some of their run deficiencies, and against the Colts, who do as well. Very high pass rate, as we see here. J.K. Dobbins is dominating that rush share. And we saw, again, Jordan Mason flew over, Tootin went over, TTN flew over. And then week 1, I don't really take a lot of stock into that, as, the Bengals defense is always kind of shut down by this offense there. What are his receptions? 1.5. Target share, not dumping it off as much as you think. Batty, because he's getting those snaps, he's getting the more dump offs opportunities there. Let's pull up some Sutton action here. Touchdown, 145. It's just so low. I know they love him, and I know he's a beast. Don't get me wrong. 2 tutties on the year already. high target share. Let's see if Troy Franklin is being priced accordingly, especially with the red zone targets. 260, 240 at Novig, 230 DK, 220 FanDuel. So he did get a massive amount of red zone targets there in week 3, in week 2, excuse me. Did score in that one as well. Parlay odds are changing here. What are these straight bet odds moving to? Definitely just changing their odds on site for fun. I don't know what they're doing. Because we're not even seeing the odds of the straight bets move, and they're changing their odds out of nowhere. All right, so interested in Troy Franklin as well. But let's go back to Sutton receiving because he could just be like take like around 60 and just call it a day. He had 65.5. Flew over in against the Chargers, not against the Colts or the Broncos, excuse me, the Titans, but he did hit 60 in that one. Some alternate lines here. Like 50 plus is plus 215. Let's see what that brings the lay to because we do have boosts. So we're going to definitely try to take advantage of the boosts in that regard. Receiving props. Sutton alt receiving yards, 50 plus 220. With the boost, it gets us to 990. Just under that 210 mark or that plus 1,000 mark that I'm sure we all love to seek after for no other reason but the vibes there. And with the boost on DraftKings, that gets us to 1027. So we're going to use the DraftKings boost on Breece Hall anytime, Tyreek 5 plus receptions, T 4 plus receptions, and Cortland Sutton 50 plus receiving yards plus 1027. That's absolutely a bet. And again, I do love Breece first touchdown, Breece over rushing yards for straight bets. We played those as well. So beautiful parlay locked in right there. Sutton 550 plus receiving yards, T 4 plus receptions, Reek 5 plus receptions, Breece Hall anytime touchdown here. All right, so let's it's 537. So let's find another first touchdown for this Miami game. We can build another SGP actually, as well, combining both games. Don't want to just be blowing bankroll, of course. So we're finding EV with these legs. So we are making good bets. But let's look at some EV filters quickly. Game lines, if there's any like first quarters or anything. Already showing for next week. Let's do date range just for the next 24 hours, just for today here. Value on the over, and the Jets plus the 2.5. But of course, the 3 is a key number, but the market's not letting it get there. And again, I'm looking at the Prime Sports tweet there, who I definitely take their market data a lot more seriously than I would like an MGM. And saying the Dolphins at the 2.5, the Bengals at the 7, and the Jets, Dolphins under, saying they need the Jets to win. But I'm not so shocked by that. I think it is a pretty obvious, at least squarer game, knowing how bad the Jets are. People probably being intrigued, like Miami almost lost to Buffalo, almost beat Buffalo, barely lost, and the Jets lost them by 50. Do some of that basic transitive property deductive reasoning that we know isn't really indicative of much, but nonetheless, I'm sure we all do become guilty of doing that here and there. Let's find another first tutty. We have Breece at 850 to plus 850. GW just went to 950. That was 10 to 1. So we have our Jet. We're gonna look for a Dolphin here quickly. Ollie Gordon, definitely not worth it there, considering one second here. One sec. Okay. No, I'm not betting on Gordon. I think that was somewhat of an anomaly. Not that he's not a good player, won't get some burn, but like for a first touchdown, especially from the difference that we got, he does have more red zone rushing attempts, which we saw as he took the ball away from Achane. Not literally, but they gave him the snaps there instead of Achane to score that first touchdown. I do think Ollie Gordon at this point is going to be like a pretty focal point of this offense, but off the mini bot, I could see McDaniel getting creative here. I'm going to pull up some numbers via FTN as well. I'll share my screen in a second here because I want to see who kind of this low key option could be for Miami. We do know some of their target share data here. Um, let's see. We look at Dobbins. Well, I want to look for Jets Dolphins. Click Waller. Like I don't think Waller's going to just waltz onto the field now and score the first touchdown of the game. That would be hilarious. But I do just want to use this to get to some of the charts here. Malik Washington, Tanner Connor. Let's pull up some stuff on FTN quickly here to see what we want to see for some more advanced data as well. So far through 3 weeks, from a snap percentage on the receiving side, we have Achane leading the way with 80% snaps, 23 targets. Reek second, 76.9, tied with Waddle as well, 23 to 17 respectively. Then you have Malik Washington, Julian Hill, who has a 54%, Tanner Connor, 46.9% with one end zone target, 6 total targets on the year. But that now we do have what it looks like to be Darren Waller back. But has anybody heard any news on Waller? Like, what are they expecting out of him today? I did a quick Google, making his debut, which is all we know. Whether or not that is going to take so much away, are they going to use him? How many snaps are going to play? Part of me feels like I just have to at least see what the odds are for first touchdown. Not that I'm going to say, like, let's bet it, but, like, if it's ridiculously crazy, that's not ridiculous. I was expecting, if it was like, I was going to say, like, 50 to 1-ish, then it'd be like, all right, let's take a stab on Waller. But at that point, absolutely not. But something worth mentioning. So Jalen Wright was activated in that second game, or I should say that Buffalo game. But then next thing you know, it's Ollie Gordon who steals the first touchdown from Achane and, kind of makes things crazy. It wasn't like Jalen Wright comes back, boom, he's playing. Ollie Gordon still got the nod. What does that do to us for Tanner Connor? 46% of snaps, 6 targets this year, 1 end zone target. Obviously not great, but we're looking for some crazy, down the line type of value here for the first touchdown. Because again, we do have Breece Hall, who I actually like. I'm not gonna sit here and say like he's definitely scoring the first touchdown, but like, yeah, I like Breece. I like Breece to score. And I think that he actually has like a much better fighting chance than 850. Tanner Connor, 50 to 1 at only Hard Rock, but we want to, of course, do some shopping there. 45 to 1 at DK. This is a guy who has played almost 50% of the snaps, has 6 targets, which for Miami pass catchers, not Achane. So, like, obviously we do have to include him, but for Miami pass catchers, either way you want to put it, he is 5th in targets. We have Hill, Achane, Waddle, Washington, Connor. He has half the targets of Washington, don't get me wrong here. Yards per route run or yards per reception is 11. Yards per target, 5.5. So you're using a little bit more down the field. Targets per game, averaging 2, averaging 1 catch. I'm curious as any time also. But again, we're talking about a 50 to 1 here, or 45 to 1. So I'm not going to stand here and say we're making the best bet of all time and we should expect this to happen. And I know exactly what McDaniel is going to do here. Man coverage rate, 70% against zone. Tight coverage rate. So he is targeted. Switch over here to take a look. Open rate, only 33%. Wide open rate, 16%. So that could be some like bootleg type stuff there. Call me crazy, but I'm like in. Especially given the odds. Plus 450. Let's pull it up. Or it's a plus 450. I mean, plus 4,500. I'm taking a stab at that. Honestly, I am. I like this spot. I like this concept of potentially being a situation where they're overrating Waller coming back. I think McDaniel in the lab to potentially run something a little bit crazy. The odds are that it's going to be, Achane, Waddle, or Hill. Absolutely. Even Ollie Gordon at now 14 to 1. Wild 10-1. I'm taking a stab on a big time guy. I think Tanner Connor could be the solution to the anti chalk for tonight. So that's another first touchdown. The bets we have Hall first touchdown, Hall over rushing yards, Tanner Connor now first touchdown score for the first Monday game. We'll quickly try to put together another live for both of the two games here, but let's do that, and then we'll do some first touchdowns for the second game, and then we'll call it a day. We have back-to-back football tonight. I love back-to-back football, so I'm excited for the doubleheader on Monday. I know some people are anti it, but I am personally a fan, like a really big fan. It's more football, but you don't have two screens at this point, boys. What century we living in? We got to have two screen setups going. Let's go back to props. Let's build another bet for this one. I want nothing to do with Darren Waller. So what's some players here that we could be interested in to make our lives easier? Interested in some Knicks. Interested in some Brees still. I'm a big Brees guy tonight. Can't say no to Chase Brown. Sutton. Achan. Ingram's back. Also worth noting. G-Dub. J.K. Dobbins. Jamar. Waddle. Josh Reynolds also could be worth looking at. Justin Fields. Malik. Marvin. Could be a deep ball situation here. Let's look at some defensive coverage alignment stuff as well. Ollie Gordon. Give me nothing to do with RJ Harvey. T. Higgins. Tua Reek. And that'll round that out there. Let's look at some defensive stuff, though. Where my hypothesis or my question is, where are the Bengals getting killed? Golden's done a decent job so far, but I do want to see where Cincinnati is struggling and where Sean Payton can take advantage of it. Because I still wholeheartedly believe in Sean Payton as a very good coach. And I think that, again, if it wasn't for Bo Nix, he would be in a much better spot. I think they really could be 3-1 at this, or 3-0 at this point. Let's see. Let's switch on over here. Cincinnati defense, deep passing. Jacksonville did a good job. They had 8 20-plus attempts, converted on 3 of them. Cleveland, of course, we know can't throw the football whatsoever. And Minnesota as well. They didn't have to with Carson Wentz. So that's not showing us a lot here. From a pressure perspective here, Cincinnati, adjusted sack rates have been high. We know, again, that Browning, they couldn't really do as much to Wentz. They did do a decent job against Wentz. 4 sacks we saw. We know how big of a, botch Wentz is there. See the air yard department, and maybe we'll do this actually. Let's filter out of the Bengals themselves, and let's look at the whole, picture here. Not that high of an A dot allowed, clearly. Let's see, passing touchdowns allowed. Where do they rank here? 6th overall, so definitely near the top of these metrics here. Miami also is as well. Coverage as well. Let's see what they're doing here. And their base coverage, doing pretty well. Man coverage, let's see. Denver, one of the top man coverage teams, as we can see here. Cincinnati, where are they at? Middle of the pack, so they're at a 50-50 split, pretty close. Let's see how many times they allow people to get open. 7th in the league. And this is, again, playing against not overall so great of competition so far. I think Carson Wentz, the Jags, who probably should have won that game, and then, the Joe Flacco Browns, that them scoring 17 points would be like a miracle on earth. Tendencies on defense, deep throw rate. Let's see, Cincinnati, not too high on this list. I think that this is going to change, though, because I want to filter even back to last year. Obviously, it's a different personnel, but they were just getting smoked all over the field. And if Bo Nix at any game to, get right and right the ship, though I do think that he's not a good player, and expecting that is, probably not necessary. But Cincinnati not allowing a ton of just deep balls. Where are they getting gashed? We're looking at passing here. Let's look at some receiving stuff as well. This is last year. We'll flip back to this year actually. And we'll look at some rushing numbers as well. Rushing efficiency. This is on defense. Want to see where the Bengals are getting killed. Success rate. So we're not seeing this defense look as bad as we've expected, but this is, I think, giving us a little bit lower numbers than we'd probably be, accustomed to. So back to Jets Miami to build out 2 legs for this lay here. I don't really want much to do with Jake Browning. We have receiving yards, receptions, defensive props. Who's recording a sack today? We could always look at those. I feel like they're a little bit underserved of a market there. H 6 receptions. That just sounds crazy. I have an idea. I really love Brees today. 2 touchdowns is 10-1. What is that on FanDuel boosted? TD score props to score 2+ touchdowns. Brees Hall's 12-1 with a 30% boost plus 1560. I'm betting that. I already have been pounding the table for Brees. Like, I don't know why I wouldn't. Like, I love to go ham on the guys who I love to go ham on. We know Miami's passing D is abysmal, but if Brees can score that first one as well as a 2-pluser, I just bet Brees 2 touchdowns plus 1560. Let's pull up some numbers here. I know they're not going to look, so sexy or anything like that, but I think this is actually like a really great matchup for him. That's Reek. Let's click Brees. So plus 1560 for Brees Hall, 2+ touchdowns with the FanDuel boost. I love that. This back will go even like last year. 2 touchdown games, none. Okay. This year he has a 1 touchdown. I'm looking at Reek. I was gonna say, I was like, wait a second. I don't think that's true. TDs, 2 touchdown game last season. He had 1 2 touchdown game against the Colts. This year, yet to hit the end zone. But again, we're talking about a guy who is dominating the rush here entirely. Justin Fields is coming off a concussion. He is their Braylon Allen's was stealing the running back rush shares in the red zone. But overall, even though target share 2 in the red zone, like he is their explosive guy. He is somebody who could take the ball 70 yards to the crib. So I'm all in on Brees Hall to score 2 touchdowns in this one. That's one of the FanDuel boosts. We still have the other FanDuel boost to use. Obviously coming close to time for this game to kick off, which is going to be fun. So let's focus a little bit more on some first touchdowns for Cincinnati, Denver. Don't need to bet for both teams, but just out of curiosity, Dobbins 6-1, the favorite. Sutton second favorite. But Chase Brown's interesting because you're giving me a guy like Chase Brown who gets so much usage at 9-1. Like that's just like one of my favorite recipes. Like if you're getting a running back 1 with such great odds, especially when they're an underdog, and especially when they're not being fully priced to like what I think the market should be. I really love that. I'm like very, very intrigued actually at 9-1, but also T at 16-1. I know T hasn't done a great job so far this season. And if Chase though is taking up real estate from Patrick Surtain, that definitely does give a lot of opportunity for T. Higgins. And I want to look at some of the numbers as well for Denver because they're not as amazing as you'd think. Something else worth noting for receiving prop, Cincinnati has allowed 10 end zone targets. So literally targets to a player standing in the end zone. 10 of them from Cincinnati, which is tied for 6th in football, 6th worst. The number 1 is Arizona with 16, then Seattle and Washington with 12. Seattle, Washington, Tampa Bay with 12. Cleveland with 11. Cincy with 10. So a lot of those targets are getting there. But then you have Denver as well with 9. Let's pull back up T. Higgins here. Look at some of the red zone stuff. I know they're having a tough time even getting to the red zone and scoring, but red zone targets, Gasecki, Jamar is dominating, and everybody else here has one. Not getting to the red zone too often here. But it's Jamar touchdown. I mean, of course, it's got to beat Surtain, but red zone targets, 3, Gasecki 3 as well. I think this still, though, is probably a good price, though, for first touchdown for T. Higgins. I'm going to lock that in. First TD score, T. Higgins. Let's pull it up in the slip here. 16-1, 14-1 over at FanDuel, 15-1 at ESPN. Better price than Kalshi as well. Let's pull up the market here. I'm in on T first, Tutty. Imagine this: Tanner Connor, T. Higgins. That's a beauty. If Tanner Connor scores the first touchdown, then none of this matters, and it's just all going to be wonderful, wonderful Monday, no matter how it goes here. But I do need Broncos money line to close out the lay, and Brees Hall straights, as well as some of the parlays that we bet. But T. Higgins 16-1. I know it's been a crappy year so far, but I do think he profiles as somebody who would fit the mold for how Jake Browning throws. We did see a little bit of that in 2023 when they were paired up together. Beautiful. T. Higgins. On the Broncos side, I think it's a lot more difficult to discuss here. Of course, you have Sutton and J.K. dominating the odds. RJ Harvey right there. Troy Franklin 14-1. I'd like that to be a little bit higher. Evan Ingram at 20-1 is interesting, though. I don't know how much they're really going to use him coming back. Marvin Mims, of course, the deep ball threat. Yosivas, Troutman. Let's pull up some Mims numbers. They really haven't been great this year from any perspective. Did score that touchdown, but still 10 targets in 3 games. Like, I'll pull up FTN as well here because I want to take a better look at the snap distributions here for Denver, especially out wide. Sutton, 21 targets, 19 for Troy, 10 for Mims. But the more concerning factor is the 41.2% snap count. Like, Franklin is really, like, the pricing makes a lot of sense because Franklin really is getting the nod. He is getting the targets. He's playing more football here. Catch rate's also pretty high. Batty's playing this, has a good amount of targets, though, hasn't converted. Ingram only played 2 games, but only 4 catches on 6 targets. He's a guy who needs a ton of volume. Need to be fed in order for him to, continue to, do some really good things there. Game that's harder to read, like, realistically. Like, don't need to force bets on any game ever, and nor would we ever do that. Lost train of thought there for 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, no need to ever force anything. Like, we were having some fun, so we have some first touchdowns. And just for everybody hopping in chat now, first of all, shout out, appreciate you guys coming in. But we bet Brees Hall over rushing yards, T first touchdown, Brees 2 touchdowns, Tanner Connor first touchdown, 45-1. Don't sleep on Tanner Connor. I don't care that Darren Waller's back. I'm fading. Also Brees first touchdown, but we also bet a parlay of Brees anytime, Reek 5 receptions, T 4+ receptions, Sutton 50+ receiving yards at plus 1027. So we do have a good amount of action for fun. We don't have a ton of EV, just considering where we are in terms of the games starting, very shortly here, which we understand. We know that this is the case. We're here to find some last minute EV like we always do. Including potentially this right here. Marvin Mims, 488 at Kalshi, 450 at FanDuel. So maybe there isn't any EV. Seems like a false alarm there. Kalshi, though, with the best odds. Let's take Kalshi out of this for now. Bo Nix passing TDs over 1.5 at Hard Rock. If you guys have Hard Rock. Mims touchdown, though, still showing value. Let's look at some of the odds history here. DraftKings, Penny is down at 345 with DraftKings at 450. That's interesting. And all this is done using the amazing Outlier.bet, boys. So if you guys aren't utilizing Outlier, click the link below the stream. There's a 7-day free trial to try Outlier. So absolutely recommend that. Games are starting soon here. Passing to these under. J.K. Dobbins touchdown over at Profit X. The reports are saying that Prime Sports saying that they have the under as a sharper play. So maybe both of these two games could be some Monday night stinkers. I mean, we have an 0-3 team, an 0-3 team, a couple of 1-2s coming in here. So not like we're looking at a Bills Chiefs matchup or anything like that. Though if we talk about what the Chiefs did yesterday to Baltimore, as somebody who had Chiefs money line, I loved every second of it. Gesicki, 2.5 receptions here. Let's look at this quickly. Even odds at Hard Rock, 118 to FanDuel. This is probably a good bet. This is absolutely a good bet. Fant is out. Gesicki was not being targeted nearly as much with Fant in the mix, but Fant out. Gesicki's the obvious to step in. Drew Sample. Let's go back to FTN quickly here. I missed that news. That's all my bad. Outlier, of course, has all the news for me right here. What am I looking at? Gesicki 10 targets, Fant with 14, Sample with 6, 3 catches. We know Gesicki can catch the ball, only 5 catches though this year. Yards per reception, only 9 for Sample, only 7.6 for Gesicki. Actually, I'm surprised with that. End zone Gesicki getting more love as well. If you have a Hard Rock, this is a great bet. I'm not in a Hard Rock state, so I don't anticipate this loading here. Yeah, it's telling me to select my state here. Unfortunately, I'm in none of these states. Let's click Jersey. Oh, it pulls it up anyway. I'm not in Jersey. Should probably move there, but Hard Rock better. This has EV. This is a good bet. I really recommend that. I'm not gonna tout that if we win and give myself a pat on the back there because I can't get in on it, and I'm not sure how many of you guys can. Hopefully, a few of you can, but it does give me some inspiration though for another SGP because we're getting a boost. So we're going to get better odds. Let me build out on FanDuel quickly here. What a total receptions for Gesicki. 2.5 is 118 at FanDuel. Let's look at some alt numbers. 3.5 Hard Rock best price still. 194 at FanDuel. And 4.5 DraftKings with the best price. Last year, Gesicki had some big games. Don't get me wrong. We're talking Joe Burrow, the difference there. But 5 catches to me, am I crazy for thinking that doesn't seem like that far-fetched? I know it's a tough passing game. I know it's Browning. But Gesicki is really a good target there. Gesicki 5+ receptions. 427 at DraftKings as well to 400 at FanDuel. This is 400, by the way. I'm staring at it on my phone right here. This is intriguing. Let's pull this up here. Yeah, 427. I think that's very interesting, honestly. Don't even need him to, score or anything like that. That's just for him to catch 5 balls. I know that's, again, more than he's caught, double what he's caught so far this year. Jamar anticipated being shut down by Surtain. No Fant. Chase Brown obviously going to get a ton of looks there. So it's really T or Gesicki, if you ask me. We bet T first. I'm just curious to go back and see what some of the first touchdown odds are for Gesicki. 30-1. Do we forego a Bronco, a 7.5-point favorite, to bet 2 Bengals? We're talking first touchdown, so of course we're not sitting here saying, we're about to, take some fucking massive bets that are gonna fucking make us Bills. We are playing the lottery a little bit here for fun on prime time. We have our straight bets to cover these lottery tickets when we're coming off a beautiful Sunday. The answer, in my opinion, is yes. I think that that's more mispriced than T. I actually probably wouldn't have bet T if I saw the injury news earlier. That's entirely on me. Also, do think I would love Valor. I'll get back to the team if they, yeah, there it is, out with concussion. So I'm currently betting Gesicki 30-1 as well, foregoing a Bronco. When the Bronco inevitably scores the first touchdown, I'll just lose both of these, which is fine. But as GRP would say, I'm in the process of cornering the first touchdowns for for the Bengals. So that's it. I'm in on T and Gesicki. If a Bronco scores the first tutty, I'm shit out of luck, which is all in the game. Not losing any sleep over that. But I am still intrigued by Gesicki here with 5+ receptions. 3+. Let's go back to Gesicki because maybe trying to big brain this a little much here, especially because we're talking about a guy who, receiving wise, was giving up a lot of snaps to Fant. Fant was playing, let's see, overall in the season with the injury included. Sample has more snaps, but Gesicki has more targets. I think Gesicki receptions are definitely worth looking at here. Now the other game's about to kick off. We'll keep going for like a little bit more here. Let me go back to some of the slips here. So receiving props, player total receptions. Gesicki's baseline is 2.5, 118 at FanDuel. If you have Hard Rock here, should have bet this already. I've been talking about it for 10 minutes. Well, you guys snoozing on me here. I want to alt that but 5+ is where the alt is the value. That's my problem. It's like I could alt a 4+ to say I did. I guess it's not necessarily true. I guess there is still some value over at 4+ here. I'm gonna do that here. So receptions for Mike Gesicki, 4+, 194, and we're gonna build out the rest of the slip with this FanDuel 30% boost. I opted in for the 2 boosts here. So Gesicki is going to be our prime Bengal here. We already have some stuff with Sutton. Anytime touchdown, I don't want to trust the backfield. I could do a Chase Brown. I know how bad he's been and how bad the numbers are looking from just an overall efficiency perspective, but I think Chase Brown is not good at football or incapable of scoring. I know it's a really tough defense. So look at some of the defensive numbers here. We have a Hampton who scored and JT who scored. So RB1s are the ones who are getting in the red zone there. Titans, of course, can't score a touchdown if you gave them the ball at the 5-yard line. Great question about Dobbins. So I just know how Sean Payton runs his team here. Dobbins also is 120, which is entirely different. You're talking about a guy who's expected to score versus a guy who isn't necessarily expected with plus 140 odds for Brown. But I can't say I dislike Dobbins, but I'm going to pull up here some rushing stuff for Denver so we can take a look at it. Also, what about Josh Reynolds? So that's also another good call out. I was interested in Josh Reynolds for a little bit there. Let me do one thing at a time for a second. So Cincinnati, or Denver, I should say. We're looking at some rushing stuff here. So Dobbins is playing 51% of the snaps. RJ Harvey, 28%. Red zone, it's been all Dobbins in the red zone. So you're absolutely right to be intrigued by Dobbins. It's just when it comes to the pricing at this point, you're not really getting a deal. As far as Josh Reynolds go, let's pull up some Josh Reynolds stuff. This game, of course, starting shortly. For me, I still think that even if they do go full balls to the wall trying to defend G-Dub and Brees, which they are probably going to do, it's just still tough for them to probably have any success because they are just so much better than what the Dolphins are putting out um, on defense. Like, not that the Jets' offense are world beaters. Um, Josh Reynolds, the 1.5 targets. I'll get New York in here. I'll switch over to FTN for a quick second as well, so we can look at some of the usage stuff here. Um, Reynolds has played in one game so far. Played 32% of the snaps, had 3 targets, 2 catches. Um, Nothing in the end zone for him this young season. Um, Reynolds is just a lot of question marks here. I understand why he's intriguing, especially against the secondary, where again you'd expect them to try to do their best to just shut down Wilson. I'm just, especially with the game starting in 4 minutes for like a deeper dive, I'm personally not interested. And when it comes to Dobbins, like you probably are right, actually. Like the odds, of course, do rule everything here. J.K. Dobbins, we have him here somewhere. There he is. But from like a price perspective, it's just he's minus 116. Let's see the liquidity here because this is the best in market by a pretty good shot. So maybe well, Calci also has 113. Maybe this is the way to go. Let's open Profit X here and look at the price or the liquidity. $80. Yeah, exactly. So not seeing any liquidity till the minus 125-ish range, which is exactly what you get on FanDuel. But let's pull up Novig and check about the difference here. Novig, we have over touchdown 118 at 1400, 126 at 4K, almost 5. So FanDuel still with a better price there. Of course, if you're in like only eating up, say, $50 of this liquidity or whatever it is, absolutely bet the 117. Absolutely, if possible. But Dobbins is dominating that red zone, isn't he? And the rush attempts and all. He is absolutely dominating. So maybe it's a Bo Nix spot, though. What's Bo Nix's touchdown odds? I had a Bo Nix anytime tutty the other week. He obviously did not catch as he has not scored a touchdown yet. But that's not for not trying. How QBs do. Lawrence and Wentz. Lawrence didn't really run the rock at all. What's his rush attempts here? 5.5 plus 104. That DK at 8 against the Chargers. Can't really expect a ton of pressure. I go Wild over 4.5 receptions for plus money, but the game starts less than 5. I joined late, so I don't know if you mentioned him. I don't blame you for targeting Waddle. I played Wild like all my fantasy leagues. I actually, in one of my lays, though, I did go with Reek over Waddle. My thought process, more so with Reek here, while Waddle I think does fit the similar mold, is considering that sorry, Broncos. It's considering the mini buy. I think it's actually really beneficial for McDaniel because I do think McDaniel still is a good offensive coach. So I think that after this mini buy, if they're not putting together like a great game plan to put the ball into like Tyreek Hill's hands, though of course it could be Waddle, that they're kind of botching a little bit as well. But odds are moving big time in the slip. Is Gesicki the one getting moved? I'm seeing Chase Brown with 135. So I'm sticking so far with right now in this lay. Gesicki 4+ catches and Chase Brown anytime. And what are we going to finalize that with? Maybe a boat. I think Bo Nix always going to have to run it all. Like this this offensive line for the Broncos has been playing so damn well in pass protection. Honestly, could keep it to Dobbins, Brown, and Gesicki with the boost. That's 1281. So we're going a 1328 now. These odds are moving like crazy in the slip. I guess it has to be Gesicki yards. Let me go back to Mike here. So I'm curious why it's moving so crazy now. We do know that Fant's not playing. First TD. Bet Gesicki first TD. I'll go over everything we played in 1 second here. But receptions, where are the odds moving? This Hard Rock again, absolutely worth playing if it's as long as that's still there. Um, plus 194. Okay. Closing. Okay, everything's starting there. So let's finalize this game and we'll sweat up the first touchdown. But I think I'm going with the two running backs, Dobbins, Brown, and Gasecki. Um, just move to 1302 as I was clicking accept. I don't keep my thing on automatically except changing odds. I don't think as FYI, if you guys do have like automatically accept odds movements, turn that shit off. You absolutely should never do that. Because the odds roll everything. Even if you want to bet something and it's minus 110, it moves to 115. Unless that's still best in market with EV, absolutely avoid. But okay, we have this game starting right now. Let's see if we get a quick first drive and a quick score. That would be fun. We're rooting for all things Brees Hall in that game. Brees Hall over rushing yards. Brees Hall first TD. Brees Hall 2 TDs. Brees Hall anytime TD in a parlay. So let me read through what we have. We have Brees Hall over rushing yards. 47.5. That's what I got like days ago, but I will grade at the number that's currently at now because I do think that it's still a worthwhile bet. Brees anytime, Reek 5+ receptions, parlay with T 4+ receptions, Sutton 50+ receiving yards, Tanner Connor first touchdown, Brees Hall 2 touchdowns, T first touchdown, Gasecki first touchdown, and Gasecki 4+ catches, Chase Brown anytime, J.K. Dobbins anytime plus 13-12. But Monday Night Football is here. Let's see. We have a Dolphins football. So I don't know what the rules are for like streaming and whatnot. I don't want to get kicked off. I don't want to get kicked off of my streaming grind because I'm accidentally showing content I'm not allowed to show with the NFL. Get some copyright goons on me. That's the last thing I want here. But while we do have the 30-1 or this 45-1 first touchdown, I obviously don't expect that to hit, and I definitely have more of a rooting interest in Brees Hall to score this first one. So I would not mind if the Dolphins go 3 and out here, though. It looks like Waller is already getting involved. So hopefully he's more of a decoy toward the end zone there. They go to my boy, who probably is dead on arrival, unfortunately. And I don't know if you guys are using like the real app, but it really is so much faster than like ESPN or even like streaming sometimes. So like if I'm like breaking news to you, I'm not even watching it. Like I guess I'll pull it up on ESPN on my other computer. Really was great. Don't know how long this drive is going to be here. 14-yard catch, 2-way incomplete. All right, boys. I'm actually going to be streaming again on Dad's Bet Baseball tonight to talk some playoff futures. I'll be on it again at 8:30. So thank you all for hopping on this stream. I love the Monday night streams. We have been killing prime times this season, like absolutely annihilating them. So glad to hopefully be able to do that again with you guys today. And Sunday stream did amazing. So I don't stream tomorrow, but I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays. So make sure you guys are following me on X Echo BetSmart. Watching on YouTube, liking the video and subscribing is massive for the algo. So I really would appreciate that as well. If you're on Twitch, give me a follow. But shout out to everybody for hopping in and tuning in for your comments. I'll see you guys on stream at 8 o'clock, 8:30 if you want to tune in to the I Do Bet Baseball. And I'll see you guys on my own stream on Wednesday. So